Well, it is good to be here again. We are thankful for the day, thankful for how the Lord is blessed. One of my kids mentioned to me that we're in a drought, and it is true, although we did have a little bit of rain the other day, which was nice, but you could definitely, as you walk outside and you see the cracks and the dried grass, it definitely is a little dry out there. So, reminds me, by the way, of a time when, let's see, we sing that song, Elijah's God, don't we? How Elijah had prayed and it hadn't rained for a long time. Can you imagine going multiple years without any rain, how dry and dead things would be? But then there came a time when he prayed that the Lord would send rain, and the Lord sent rain. Thankful to know that we serve a God who controls the weather. And we just have to trust Him and know that He is in control. All right. We have been in the book of Psalms in the evenings. So let's take our Bibles and turn back to Psalms chapter 12 this time. Psalms chapter 12, a whole whopping 8 verses. It's interesting the way this psalm starts, and I have to think about the message this morning. This psalm starts with 2 words. Help, Lord. Help, Lord, is the way that this psalm opens. Psalms chapter 12, verse 1 says, Help, Lord. And I think about those apostles, James and John, as they were taken hold of and dragged off to jail, and the next day stood before the council who threatened them to not speak of Jesus again. And even after Peter said, well, we're going to obey God versus man, and then they once again threatened them not to speak in the name of the Lord. These are the rulers. You understand the despair that can come when those in charge are wicked? Matter of fact, listen, when you look down at the very last verse of Psalms chapter 12, it says, the wicked walk on every side when the vilest men are exalted. You take evil men and set them in a place of authority where they're exalted, and you know what's going to happen? Wickedness breeds. I mean, it just spreads. And you think about the fact that those apostles had to stand before the rulers, and the very rulers were the ones that were wicked. And when judgment is corrupted, dark times are ahead, right? Well, Psalms chapter 12 starts with that cry and that plead, help, Lord. Now, it's interesting, when you look up that word help in Strong's, it is actually, the word help is great, but listen, when you look at it, it actually brings with it the idea of to be safe, to bring safety. Matter of fact, that word, that same Hebrew word, it shows up like 205 times. And most of the times that it shows up, it is translated save or safe or deliver. And so as you think about it, in the English, the word is help, but it's really not just like, hey, can you help me with this? Right? Because we use the word help in different ways. Like, hey, I'm trying to lift this thing. Can you give me some help? I need some assistance. We think sometimes about the word being assistance. Can you give me some assistance? The word is not that. The word is a plea for deliverance from something. And of course, you'll notice, just like we've talked about so much as we've went over the book of Psalms, the word Lord there is in all caps, indicating this is that word Jehovah or Yahweh, right? This is that idea of the self-existing one. This is the sovereign God of all creation. Well, why is the psalmist pleading for help? Why is he crying out for safety? Because make no mistake, again, it is a plea for deliverance. He says in the last half of verse 1, "For the godly man ceaseth, for the faithful fail from among the children of men." You look around, and what the psalmist is saying is, where are all the godly people? Where are all the faithful people? It's as if nobody's godly anymore. It's as if people have lost faith and they're just gone. Lord, help! We need help. You know, in many ways, as you look in this world today, man, as I think about the way that this nation is going, and you look at other countries that have already went in a lot of ways that ours is heading, you understand this phrase, "The godly man ceaseth, and the faithful fail from among the children." It seems like with every generation, there's fewer and fewer and fewer that even want to serve God. There's fewer and fewer that even seek after Him. Man, listen, there was a day when even if you weren't a really religious person, quote unquote, man, you understood that the Bible and the things of God were held in reverence. Honestly, the majority of people today could care less about the Bible, and there is no reverence for God. And you can feel the exasperation in these statements. The godly man ceaseth, and the faithful fail from among the children of men. Just this despair in the psalmist's words. Verse 2, "They speak vanity, every one with his neighbor." Listen, as I look around, he said, where are the godly people at? Where are the faithful people? I look at people as they communicate with their neighbors, and it's just vanity. And this word vanity can mean multiple things, but generally it's this idea of uselessness or idolatry, or it's just, it can be pride. We use it often in that sense. But it's this idea of fruitless, pointless, nothing. It is interesting, and I'm going to take a sidetrack here, that the word is very closely associated with the idea of idolatry. Useless, pointless, nothing. Sometimes in the Bible, the word idol, when it's translated idol, the word behind it means very much like this one. It's just pointless. But they speak vanity, every man with his neighbor. With flattering lips and with a double heart do they speak. You look at the way the world is and the way they treat each other, and everything is evil or morally corrupt or useless. And then you see that even in the nice things and the way they talk with each other, it's flattery. And listen, flattery, if you really go back to the root of what the word means, it's not a good thing. We think sometimes of the word flattery in regards to, oh, well, your hair looks nice today. You really did a good job. I tell you what, I like the way that shirt looks on you. Listen, flattery brings with it more than the idea of just complimenting you. Flattery is the idea of I'm complimenting you with an ulterior motive in mind. I'm going to butter you up to get what I want. It's actually a really twisted thing when you think about flattery, because flattery is all about selfishness shown in a seemingly caring way about somebody. You look nice. You look good. That's great. Now, give me what I want. It's really, I think here, as you look at this, it's this idea of lying and flattering lips. And with a double heart do they speak. Again, that idea here is the same, right? I'm going to speak really nice and flattering to you to make it look like my heart is one way, when in reality, it's actually double-minded. It's like the guy who's spying for one country but is really a spy for the other country. Like everybody knows he's a spy, but he's actually a spy for the other guy. You think he's yours, but he's the other guy's. A double agent, right? Ain't that what they call that? Yeah. This is a similar concept here. Everybody is out to please themselves and get what they can get. So the psalmist, in his plea for help from the Lord, he sees that the godly man is falling away and the faithful man is ceasing from among the children, and the world is literally just becoming self-absorbed and it's all about self. And even the nice things they say are simply to get the things they want. Verse 3. Now, in verse 3, he's going to go with some statements. He has pleaded for the Lord to help. He's described the problem. And then he's going to say what the Lord is going to do about it. The Lord shall cut off all flattering lips. The Lord shall cut off all flattering lips. Now, you kids might have just imagined that some of his lips got cut off. It's kind of like that lay hold on thing earlier, right? This is the idea of he is going to remove it. He is going to remove it. He's going to wipe it out. The Lord is going to bring judgment. That's what the psalmist is saying. The Lord shall cut off all flattering lips, and the tongue that speaketh proud things. The Strong's, when you look up Strong's for this word proud things here, it's this idea of, it's not just pride. I'm trying to think of how to describe it. It's like insolent pride. Insolent's not really a word that we use, but I think we all know it when we see it. You know, it's like, well, you're not going to do that to me. I don't care what you say. I'm going to do what I want to do. You can't tell me what to do. I'm going to do it anyways. You might have told me not to. I don't care what you say. I'm going to do it anyways. It's more than just pride, like arrogancy that we think of. It's insolent pride. You know, as you think about this, there's some verses. The Lord hates some things. Pride's right up there toward the top. Why? You know, I think because in a lot of ways, pride, the sin of pride, leads to so much other sin. As you think about what pride does, pride convinces you that what you want to do is okay. That what you want, well, they got no business telling me I can't. Well, they might say I shouldn't do that, but I'll show them. I mean, there's a lot that comes from pride when you think about really what's at the heart. What I'm trying to say in some ways is you got to look at what's at the center of the sin of pride. It's a lifting up of yourself and this idea that you are right and everybody else is wrong. And when you have that feeling, Where does that lead? Nowhere good. The Lord shall cut off all flattering lips and the tongue that speaketh proud things. I think the next couple verses, or the next verse, really kind of shows the heart of pride. It says in verse 4, "Who have said, with our tongue will we prevail? Our lips are our own. Who is Lord over us?" When it says the Lord's going to cut off flattering lips, and that He's going to cut off that speaketh proud things, He then gives an example of what He's talking about. Because those that are insolent in their pride, whether they've verbalized it out loud, or whether it's just what's in their heart, don't forget the Lord knows and can see the heart. But can you imagine? I guess you can, because we see it all the time, and if we're not careful, we can see it in ourselves. But these people that he's talking about literally have the attitude of what we say will be. The things from our tongue, they're going to prevail. They're going to win. We can't lose. We can't lose. And what we say will go. But they don't stop there. They say, our lips are our own. We can say what we want to say because my lips are mine, and you got no business over what my lips say or do. Do you see the attitude? My lips are my own. What this mouth says, well, that's my business, not yours. And what I say is gonna win. The idea here with the pride that these guys have, or gals, nobody can tell me what to do, not even God. They didn't even stop by saying, look, our lips are our own, and you got no business over us. You got no business saying what I can say and what I can't say. You got no business telling me where I can go and what I can do. The next words they say is, who is Lord over us? It's a question with an assumed answer. Do you remember how in Romans Paul would sometimes ask a question and it wasn't like he was even expecting an answer? Like the question itself revealed to you Paul's opinion about the matter? Right? It's just the way he phrased the question and the context in which he said it. This is very similar. Who is Lord over us? Hey, let's go do what we want to do. Hey, you want to do that? I know they say we shouldn't do that, but you and me know that they got nothing on us. We can do what we want to do. What are they going to do to stop us? Nobody's my boss. I don't care what they say. Now you take that attitude and you go back to the first verse. For the godly man ceaseth, for the faithful fail from among the children of men. You look at this world, and so much of this world today is all about self. Will you do what makes you happy? Well, your reality and my reality, you've got your reality, I've got my reality. There really is no wrong. I mean, really, who defines wrong? I mean, who makes that stuff up anyways? You know what that statement is? That statement is the exact same thing as who is Lord over us? Truth is a relative thing. I mean, really. You know, truth is what? I mean, your truth, my truth, It's the same concept. Who is Lord over us? There is no defined right or wrong in this world so much today. Unless it's something that they want to be tolerated. and then suddenly you're wrong to not tolerate it. I hope you understand as I say these things, again, when you look at the world and you look at the attitude of people and the way things are going and how much people are falling away from the things of God, they really, as they fall away from the things of God, you very much move to this idea of who is the Lord over us anyways? The statement as a question is really, again, it's as much as it's a question, it's more of a statement. It is saying there is nobody over us. And you start to remove the principles of God, and that is actually where this world will come to. Is every man will do that which is right in his own eyes, which is a familiar passage when you study the Old Testament. Especially you look at the times of the judges and things would get so wicked and they would describe it as every man did that which was right in his own eyes. Nobody's in charge of me. I can do what I want to do. Verse 5, for the oppression of the poor, for the sighing of the needy, now will I arise, saith the Lord. I will set him in safety from him that puffeth at him. So in the first statement, he cries out for the help from the Lord. He then states the problem. He then talks about what God is going to do about it. He then gives us another example of what pride looks like. And then in a lot of ways in verse 5, he tells what insolent pride leads to. It leads to oppression. The oppression of the poor, for the sighing of the needy. Now it's interesting when you look at this word poor, we almost always just associate it with having no money. The word really can mean so much more than that. It's the idea of those that have been brought low, those that have been humbled, those that have been brought down. Money is one aspect of that. But it's not the only aspect of that. But those that have been oppressed, and for the sighing of the needy, now will I arise, saith the Lord. I will set him in safety from him that puffeth at him. The idea here is the Lord's deliverance. The pride of this world will start to attack and take over. You know what it leads to? It leads to oppression and abuse. But the Lord will deliver those that have humbled themselves. In verse 6, the words of the Lord are pure words, as silver tried in a furnace of earth, purified 7 times. Not even getting into some of the concepts of how in the Old Testament, oftentimes I think 7 brings with it the idea of completeness and things like that. Just set that aside even. Just look at the picture. You know how pure the words of the Lord are? It's like refining silver. Now, for some of the younger ones, you may not understand what refining silver means. Hey, have you seen something silver and it's all shiny? Right? Silver's really nice and polished and shiny. Do you know that silver taken out of the ground doesn't really look like that to start with? You actually take it and you have to melt it down. And as you melt it down, the impurities kind of come to the top, and you actually have to scoop that stuff off. It's called dross. You get rid of the impurities. Well, this says the words of the Lord are so pure that it's like when you were melting silver that you melted it down and you purified it. And then you did it again, and then you did it again, and then you did it again, till you had done it 7 times. And the ending result is pure silver. You know what? If God said, sometimes people take this verse and they talk about, and listen, I'm not saying that God's word isn't this, but people take this word and they say that, this is talking about the scriptures. And yes, the Scriptures apply to this because God's words, right? The Scriptures. But listen, it's not just that. This is literally saying that if God said it, it's perfect. Well, what is God talking about in chapter 12? I'm going to cut off the lips that flatter. I'm going to cut off him that speaketh pride. I'm going to rise up in defense of those that are poor and needy. And I'm going to set him that's poor and needy in a safe place, away from him that puffeth at him. Those are the things that the Lord has said. It's right after that that this statement comes into play. This is not some separate statement away from the rest of the chapter. This is not the psalmist talking about one topic and suddenly chasing a rabbit and throwing a verse in here just out of the middle. He is saying, we have told you what the Lord is going to do to the wicked. We have told you what the Lord is going to do to the poor and needy. What he said he will do, his words are perfect and pure, like silver refined 7 times. There will be no mistake in it. There will be no misunderstanding in it. There will be no, he almost did all of it, but not quite. It was almost perfect. If God said that he's going to cut off the lips that flatter, he's going to do it. If he said he's going to take those that are poor and needy and he's going to put them in a place of safety, then he's going to do it. Verse 7, thou shalt keep them, O Lord. Thou shalt preserve them from this generation forever. His words, what he says he will do, and those that he protects, he will bless and protect them forever. It is interesting to me that as you look at this and you talk about the plea for safety from the Lord, the declaration of those that are supposed to be the Lord's having fallen away, the declaration of what the Lord will, or what the problem is, the declaration of what the Lord's going to do to the wicked, the declaration of what the Lord's going to do for those that are safe, the statement that God's words are pure and perfect and what he says he will do, he will do. And then it ends back on that note of when the wicked are in charge, it's bad. Verse 8, the wicked walk on every side when the vilest men are exalted. When you take those men that say, who is Lord over us? And those men are now in charge, and it just breeds wickedness. You know what happens when wicked men get into positions of power? They don't go find people that are good and upright to be their counselors. They don't find people that are good and upright to go carry out the things that they want carried out. They find people that are like them. And those people find people like them. And people that thought it was not okay to be like them suddenly start to act like they've always wanted to act. I mean, you can see, you study history, you can see it time and time again. In a society, there are those, and some people are going to think I'm wrong, there are those that are just flat out wicked. Now, people today don't like that statement. Well, they're a product of this, or they're a product of that. I get it. There are people that get off into stuff because of things that happen to them. But listen, I firmly believe there are people in this world that are just wicked. Well, I know there is, because every single one of us that are born are that way. But listen, there are some very, very wicked people in this world. And you study history, you know, Hitler didn't surround himself with people that were of timid thought, conservative in their outlook on life. that were going to counsel him to use caution and counsel him to have compassion. That's not what he did. You look at most of the people in Hitler's inner circle, honestly, I'm not sure that some of them weren't worse than him. There was something wrong with those people. I've struggled with, why did the psalmist end with this verse? Why? I mean, most of the time when you look at Psalms, it's bad, it's bad, it's bad. God is good. God's going to do this. I'm happy, I'm rejoicing. Right? That's the way Psalms works most of the time. This one was like, God help me. Here's the problem. I know you're going to do this. Here's the problem. I know you're going to do this. Your words are perfect. Man, when wicked people are in charge, it's bad. Sometimes, the wicked may not go away just because you've prayed to God for deliverance. By the end of this psalm, you can see the confidence in which the psalmist knows that God will judge the wicked. You can see the confidence that He will deliver the poor and needy, and that His words are perfect. But he almost leaves you with the idea, we are still in the midst of this problem. And in a lot of ways, it's not any different than it is today. Matter of fact, he may be describing some times that we have yet to see here. But I can see shadows of them really easy. Who is Lord over us? There is no root truth. Truth is relative. There is no God. You know why people don't want there to be a God? Because they don't want God to be over them. Most people that will tell you there is no God, they don't say it longingly. Like, there's no God, I sure wish there was one. Atheists don't feel that way. Atheists don't want there to be a God. They aren't saying it with the hopes that, oh, I wish it was true, but I just don't think it is. What does that sound like? Who is Lord over us? We got nobody to boss us around. We got nobody to tell us what to do. Now you put those people in power. Now you'll come back to verse 1, and maybe we'll remember to call out to the Lord. Help, Lord. Help us, Lord. Deliver us, Lord. Provide safety for us, Lord. We know that you are the judge, and that when your time is right, you will judge. And we know that you are the deliverer, and when the time is right and in the way you see fit, you will deliver. We need strength in the midst of problems. We need strength in the midst. This psalm, like I said, really, really reminds me, and I don't know if this was the original intent or not, but it's what I think of. Seeing and knowing that God will deliver doesn't mean He's done it yet. And you might still be smack in the middle of the problem. But you got to keep leaning on God with faith and confidence that He will deliver. So, help, Lord. Help. Two simple words, right? Help, Lord. All right, we're going to be done. Ask Brother Philip if he'd come and lead us in a